I didn't think of a joke to start the podcast this time.
Halloween ends. That's a
Halloween
joke.
hasn't even started yet.
Well, I tell you what, the franchise did.
Isn't this like the 5th end to the Halloween franchise, though? Doesn't it always end?
No.
Isn't this series like the 3rd reboot starring Jamie Lee Curtis?
It's the third iteration. Yet there's different timelines in Halloween, but it's not a multiverse story. They just do rewrites and ignore some previous continuity, and then they pick up the old continuity again when the new continuity was bad.
Yeah, so in 20 years' time we'll have a deep fake of Jamie Lee Curtis back in a new Halloween Ends film. It's fine.
Oh, God, no. God, no. Yeah, they done Halloween 1 and 2, and then 3 was like an American Horror Story anthology, Rogue One type, that had nothing to do with anything. Michael Myers not even in it. They actually acknowledge in Halloween 3 that the first Halloween is a movie. Then no one liked that. So Halloween 4 is called The Return of Michael Myers. Jamie Lee Curtis isn't in it, and it's about a daughter she had at some point off screen, never heard of before, and she's dead. Jamie Lee Curtis is dead in it. And then that got 2 sequels, Halloween 5 and 6, 6 starring no other than a young Paul Rudd. And then they make Halloween H2O, which is the 20th anniversary of the Halloween franchise, and Jamie Lee Curtis comes back for it, even though she was supposed to be dead. And then in Halloween Resurrection, she dies on screen right at the start. Like, they kill her off immediately. Apparently she didn't want to do the film, and there was some contractual obligations that kind of forced her to be there. And she dies, and then that film was shit, and it ended. And then that was the last Halloween movie for years, until Rob Zombie done 2 reboots with a whole new cast, basically remaking the first movie, and the second movie was wild. And then Halloween 2018 was the return of Jamie Lee Curtis again, and that was the trilogy that's just ended now. And that's only showing the continuity of the very first original film, not even its sequel that she was in, because in that film you find out that she's the younger sister of Michael Myers, which people didn't like anymore, even though I think it's fine, and now they're unrelated.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you explained all that, because we're not here to talk about Halloween, because I've not seen it and I never will.
Allow me my flights of fancy.
No, look, Nathan, we're here for a very important reason. I've summoned you here today to talk about a grave piece of news, which is, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but a trailer for the Mario movie did come out.
So it did.
I see you've already blanked it out of your minds.
Yeah, I watched it. I did watch it. I forgot about it, though. I completely forgot all about it. But I should know, now that you've mentioned it and I've remembered it, listeners, Kyle didn't tell me what we wanted to speak about today. He just summoned me. And
I have a list of things.
He has a list of things. And I will say about the Mario trailer, I didn't hate it.
Here's the thing.
I,
too, did not hate it. I think the opening where Bowser invades the Penguin Kingdom, and I'll just say, I think it's fair to say that neither of us are particularly large Nintendo fans. We're both Xbox kids and always have been.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy Nintendo from like an arm's reach, you know?
But I don't think I've ever actually played a Mario game properly.
Well, I have.
I've played like Mario Kart around at friends' houses and things like that, but a proper Mario game, not really. So I don't have particularly strong emotional attachments to Mario.
I mean, yeah, I have fond memories of Mario, but not exactly memories that I hope they respect the canon of the Mario games. Like, I don't care that much.
Right, so let's say when Bowser shows up and he invades the penguins and they throw snowballs at his army. It's cute, it's fun. I liked it.
Minions.
Jack Black, he's doing good.
Yeah.
It's just, and we didn't talk about this in the podcast, I don't think, but I'm sure the entire world already knows that Chris Pratt is playing Mario.
Yes, he is.
And it's just such a choice.
It's a choice, but I will say, in that trailer, I wasn't immediately immensely overwhelmed with the fact that it was Chris Pratt. I kind of forgot it was him. I didn't think it was just Chris Pratt voice. I think obviously it's not an Italian accent he's doing, it's like more like Italian-American, but I don't think he's doing a horrific job, actually. It being Chris Pratt in that trailer did not take me out of the trailer.
Here's the thing. He has 2 lines in the trailer, which is pretty hard to judge anything from.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Which I think was a deliberate choice.
Oh, so you think it's painful?
I think from those 2 lines, it didn't blow me away. I'll say that.
I'll say it didn't move me. It didn't move me negatively towards being against him, but it didn't move me in his favour either. I didn't care. I did not care that it was Chris Pratt voicing Mario. People online have said certainly is a choice, and I agree based on his past work, it is a choice. But based on the trailer that we just saw, even if you might have suspicions as to why we didn't hear a lot of him speak, from what we did hear, I have not been swayed in or against him, in favour of or against. I thought he'd done a fine job.
I think the career journey of Chris Pratt has been fascinating because he started as he's from one of those comedy shows, right? He's from Parks and Recreation or something like that. One Parks of those shows.
Yeah.
Where he was known as the sort of chubby comedy dude.
Yeah.
But for the past decade, Chris Pratt has been defined as a sort of more action man type dude.
Yeah.
With Jurassic World and Guardians of the Galaxy.
People wanted him to take over Indiana Jones from Harrison Ford.
Sure, yeah. And there was a while where everyone was Team Chris Pratt, but in the last few years, he's done some weird stuff in his personal life, and people have turned on Chris Pratt, especially on the internet.
Yeah. I've never really cared for Chris Pratt. I can't remember
exactly what it was. It was some, religious comments or something like that. I can't remember the details.
It's a muddy conversation.
It's a muddy conversation, but regardless, the internet has now turned on Chris Pratt. But I think for me, it's just that my brain has changed Chris Pratt from comedy dude to action hero type dude. So even though, part of the thing people have said about casting Chris Pratt as Mario being weird is that Chris Pratt is an action dude and Mario should be a more sort of, normal everyman type guy. I think you should have cast a more...
Sounds like they want Fix-It Felix from Wreck-It Ralph. That's what it sounds like they want.
Sure, yeah, I guess so. But Mario, I feel, should be played by more sort of a Paul Giamatti type, you know?
Paul Giamatti type, my god.
Someone who's more known for doing sort of character roles.
I can't quite emphasise enough how much this is going to be a very one-sided conversation on your part, because I think so little about Chris Pratt, neither positively nor negatively. I think he's fine as Star-Lord. He's fine in the Jurassic World movies. I wouldn't like to see him play Indiana Jones, and I don't care that he's playing Mario. And I there's so little to say about him.
Well, that's fine. That's okay. That's all good. I just wanted to bring it up because the internet's it's setting the internet ablaze, and I felt like we had to address it.
Well, yeah, no, we certainly can address it. I think the internet is a stupid place, but.
You heard it here first. Nathan hates you.
I don't hate you. I hate the collective that you're part of.
Well, we do have another bit of interesting casting news, which is, and this was rumoured when we were recording our last episode. But
speaking of Harrison Ford.
There we go. We're layering on all these transitions. Harrison Ford has officially is it official?
It's official to the point where the studio don't need to make an announcement about it because the trades are kind of running with it. Certain big trades that would remove all room for doubt, like the Hollywood Reporter, haven't said anything, or Variety, they haven't said anything. If they said something, it's as good as a confirmation, even if Marvel never actually say anything. But
we should probably say what we're talking about.
Harrison Ford is replacing William Hurt as Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross in the Thunderbolts movie, because William Hurt sadly passed away.
Yes, an important part about that character, which has never come up in the movies as of yet, is that he becomes the Red Hulk.
Yes, he had a red cane in Black Widow.
Which, given the fact that they're recasting him to appear in the movies again, it kind of seems likely they're going to do Red Hulk stuff. Otherwise, why bother? And, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, the leader is the villain of Captain America 4, and they're apparently, from what I've heard, She-Hulk, we can speak about She-Hulk in a bit, but She-Hulk was supposed to more directly lead into Captain America 4 in its initial drafting.
Interesting.
With, you know how they were after She-Hulk's blood in the show, then that just turned out to be nothing, because the last episode really just decided that the rest of the show didn't matter.
Oh, I guess we'll talk about that.
We'll get there. We can get there. But to stay on the Red Hulk topic, Hulk in general, Hulks are going to be a big part of the MCU going forward, especially because Universal are supposed to be losing the rights to the film distribution next year. So
I think it would be very funny if Universal crapped out a terrible Hulk movie on a scale of like the Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie just to keep the rights.
That would be hilarious. However, I don't think they have the rights to make one. They only have the rights to distribute one.
Ah, I see. Okay, that's fun.
So if Marvel make one, Universal have to be the people that put it out. But if Marvel don't make one, Universal can't do anything.
That's weird.
It's like how Paramount...
Hollywood is so confusing.
It's like how Paramount had the distribution rights to Iron Man. All three Iron Man movies have a Paramount logo in front of it.
Right, yeah.
Which is something people maybe forget because of the way Marvel is now. But early days, there was lots of different people helping Marvel with their early films. But yeah, so Harrison Ford being Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross is something that, whilst not 110% in the books confirmed yet by 100% well-track record people, the people who have reported on it, if you know the people in the movie business that are reliable, like, it's these people talking about it, so it is true. It's just the officially Twitter verified publishers haven't commented on it yet, just the individuals who are in the business have commented on it.
Oh, beyond all that, though, how do you feel about the casting?
I think Harrison Ford is a business genius. Give that man a raise. Not a raise, he's got too much money. Give his agent a raise. Because I think, because people are talking about how, I've heard a pundit who I sometimes enjoy watching on YouTube say that this decision must mean that Thunderbolts must be of a certain level of quality because Harrison Ford is so successful that he can pick and choose his projects, and he could easily have just said no to this. Why would Harrison Ford feel obliged to show up for this?
That's an odd take. Okay.
It's an odd take. I think on the surface it works, but the second you remember Star Wars, it's it's just you start getting holes in it quite quickly.
He thought the Rise of Skywalker had the mark of quality.
Yeah, exactly, right? And even on like chat shows, he talks about the contract. He makes jokes about how much money he's getting paid. It's like a bit of a joke that he doesn't really care for Star Wars. And I think the press tour for this film, when he's helping to promote it, is going to be comedy gold. They're going to ask, what do you think Red Hulk's doing in another universe right now? Or maybe he won't be Red Hulk in Thunderbolts, but they'll be setting up for it, and they'll be like, you're going to be Red Hulk? And he's going to be like, what the fuck is a Red Hulk? He's getting paid so much money, I bet. Like, wow. Good for him. Good for him. I really don't care that it's news. It's certainly news. But I don't think his involvement says anything about the quality of the picture.
I strongly agree, and that's another thing. We didn't talk about that on our last podcast either. The lineup for Thunderbolts, as announced at the last D23, is bizarre.
I think it's interesting, like, because some people give Marvel shtick for having kind of underwhelming villains. They put a lot of emphasis on the heroes, and just bar a couple of exceptions like Loki and Thanos, the villains are just underplayed. Remember Christopher Eccleston was an MCU villain? Most people don't.
Do.
And to give these forgotten villains, especially Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp, like, quite forgettable.
Well, that's the thing with the lineup, though. Ghost is the only villain on it.
Well, yeah, but she also had a sympathetic story. You could say they're all villains with a sympathetic story.
Black Widow, Yelena definitely isn't a villain.
I mean, she's redeeming herself, but she's a cold-blooded assassin that worked for the bad guy for a long time.
She was mind-controlled. That doesn't count.
Doesn't count. What about Bucky?
Bucky also mind-controlled. Taskmaster also mind-controlled. So much mind-control.
Red Guardian?
Red Guardian was mind-controlled by Russian propaganda.
Zemo, he's not on the line. He's in it though. I'm telling you now, he'll be there.
I would be mad if he isn't.
Isn't US Agent there?
US Agent is there, but he also gets a weird unearned redemption arc at the end of Winter Soldier.
They're villains.
Falcon.
They're villains. They're villains. I'm fine with the lineup. I actually am quite a fan of the lineup.
My main issue with the lineup is they all do the same thing, bar Ghost. They're all just like super soldiery, punchy, kicky people.
Yes. Oh, that's fair. That's a fair assessment. I like the characters and the art, and like I'm really excited to see Florence Pugh and Sebastian Stan share the screen.
Really? Why those two particularly?
I love Florence Pugh.
Okay, I'm with you so far.
And I think Elena Belova is just lightning in a bottle for a character. I think she was the best part about the Hawkeye show. And I think the character of the Winter Soldier, if done in like a Winter Soldier the movie-esque way, will be great. Like a tortured man with mind control. I know they said that they got it out of him. And if he's just the Winter Soldier we saw in Endgame, or even Falcon the Winter Soldier, fine, it's a bit meh, but I quite enjoy his like backstory with the secret agents and stuff, like when he was part of Hydra. I like all those connections, like people he might know and insights he's got, and I think just with Winter Soldier as a character, a bit like how I'm kind of of the opinion that the MCU has kind of over the years just sort of done a worse job with the Hulk to make him funny, whereas I really like the Joss Whedon interpretation of the Hulk that makes him a screaming rage monster.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think the MCU has also kind of made the Winter Soldier less interesting as he goes along. I don't think they've done much with him, but Thunderbolts is supposed to be the MCU Suicide Squad, and thus I think if they want to be consistent with that, they can maybe give a little bit of darkness back to the Winter Soldier. So I just think those two characters will be fantastic together. I could be completely wrong and be very optimistic, but that's what I want.
That's the other thing about this team, which I don't really get, which is it's been said a bunch that it's Marvel's Suicide Squad, but this lineup is not Suicide Squad adjacent at all, really.
Oh, they're like government-controlled superhuman team to go in and do scary missions.
They're not criminals though. Everyone on that team is a spy.
Yeah, but they'll have leverage against them. They'll be like the Sokovia Accords are gone. We don't have control over the Avengers anymore. They're free reign monarchs.
They're way more like a super-powered Black Ops squad than they are Suicide Squads.
That's kind of what the Suicide Squad are meant to be, except Suicide Squad is like a brand, don't mind killing them off. But they are kind of a Black Ops team.
I guess we're splitting hairs here. Anyway, Harrison Ford is Thunderbolt Ross. That's what we were talking about. I think it's fine. I like Harrison Ford. He's good. He's old, which I think is no offense to him, but I think it's an odd choice for a big franchise like this.
It depends how much they've got plans for Thunderbolt Ross. If they're planning on wrapping him up in the next 6 years, then maybe it could be apt. It's not like he's a new character. I know it's a new casting.
Maybe, and I suppose if they are going the Red Hulk direction, then he can just transition into being a full CGI character.
Yeah, and they can recast the voice in a few years when they get his voice rights.
Or just recreate his voice with robotics, which is what they do now.
Yeah, exactly. One thing this has brought up that we haven't, I don't know if you've really seen it as much, but I've certainly seen the discourse TM happening, is people think it's a bit strange that they're recasting William Hurt but didn't recast Chadwick Boseman.
I also think I kind of see where that's coming from. I think they didn't recast Black Panther just because that's a more significant character, I guess. And obviously Chadwick Boseman is very what's the right word for this? Like influential, symbolic.
Yeah.
He was
quite prolific.
Prolific, yeah. Way more so than William Hurt, who, he's a working actor, worked his whole career, but, he never had I had to explain who that character was to my parents,
Well, William Hurt was quite a name back in the day. He's definitely an old guard, like in the 70s and 80s. He was massive. Like I'm not saying he ever did, but he probably would have been ahead. If the MCU was made back then to the level it is today, a young William Hurt probably would have showed up as like a superhero, but at some point.
Sure, okay, I'll grant you that. But the character of Thunderbolt Ross has not been very significant in any of these movies. He shows up, he's angry at the Avengers, but that's pretty much what he's done for the past 10 years of the MCU.
Because I remember when Chadwick Boseman first died, the recast T'Challa movement, it was a hashtag on Twitter, was fairly small. Most people thought, no, let T'Challa die with Chadwick Boseman. And there was some people that thought that was wrong, but they couldn't really get a lot of traction because everyone was just so grief-stricken with the loss. But from what I've seen recently is the Recast T'Challa movement got quite big about a year ago, but it was too little too late because Black Panther was already well into production. But it has now become kind of a bit of a movement where there's nothing that can be done about it. It's done. They killed him off. But people are now starting to think maybe recasting, had they given it some time before making the decision to not, is probably a route they would have taken.
Can I tell you something? My opinion on this is going to be entirely dependent on how much I like Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Yeah. I think if they're able to pull it off and the movie's still good, then sure, fine. If the movie's bad and I'm watching it the whole time thinking they should have just kept Black Panther alive, then that'll be a different story.
I mean, there is a Black Panther in it, it's just not T'Challa.
There is, and I can't remember who said it, but in the trailer it's pretty obvious that Shuri, right?
Oh yeah, sure. It's in the comics it's Shuri, in the trailer it's a female Black Panther. There's no way it's not going to be Shuri, unless they want it to be Lupita Nyong'o, who's
someone suggested that by the end of that film every character is going to end up being Black Panther, and I think that's something that I can see happening.
So the last thing I had heard is that in this film there are going to be 2 Black Panthers.
Okay. One
is going to be Shuri, and the other one is going to be Winston Duke's character. What is his name?
M'Baku, yeah.
There's going to be 2 Black Panthers, and a male one and a female one. However, from what I've also heard, what's the name of the actress who plays Shuri? She's an English actress.
I can't remember, but I know she's a controversial figure.
Well, yes, but apparently also she's a bit in the same vein of John Boyega, is that she doesn't really want to be an actor that's typecast into these tentpole roller coaster movies. She wants to do other things. And she was fine being a supporting actor, but she does not want to be the lead of Black Panther. And even though she's going to do this to pay respects to Chadwick Boseman, be Black Panther, maybe there's a contract thing and stipulate she needs to be there anyway. Probably, in fact. But come the end of the film, going forward, Black Panther might just solely be Winston Duke's M'Baku.
Yeah, the more you talk, the more I'm like, yeah, they probably should have just recast Black Panther.
You're seeing it, right?
I don't think it's disrespectful. I think having the character around is more important than some sort of honor to the actor or something. He's still there, you can still honor the actor, but having that character around is important. He's a pretty tentpole figure in the Marvel universe, you know?
Yeah. And they can't say they killed him off to show stakes, they killed him off because of a short-term emotional impact.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. I
tell you what, though, I think the trailers for Wakanda Forever look amazing. No Women, No Cry.
I've not been blown away by them, I'll be honest.
I think the film looks and sounds amazing. I think Namor looks a bit... I think the villains...
I think they're doing interesting things with Namor.
Apparently he's a mutant. There's a theory going around, right, that there's a third kingdom in Wakanda Forever.
Okay.
And it's Latveria.
You think Doctor Doom is going to show up?
I don't, but a lot of people certainly are starting to think so.
You know what? I don't put anything. Marvel fans are dumb. They don't know what to think.
Yeah. Fine. Fair.
You know who's going to show up? Mephisto's going to show up.
Mephisto's going to show up in Black Adam.
Oh, that would be a twist.
Project. Well, apparently this is in the trailers, but it's in short clips, but you can freeze frame it and clearly see. The trailers for Black Adam, this is a complete pivot. Don't really show who the villain of the movie is, but you can see there's a Red Devil character. There's Mephisto.
I'm sure DC has their own Red Devil guy.
Of course, everyone's got their own thing. What's it, Swamp Thing, now Man Thing, and Werewolf by Night?
Yes.
Have you watched Werewolf by Night?
I have not watched it yet. I'm going to watch it this weekend.
Fantastic.
Right, I know we're in a Marvel trend, but I kind of want to do the She-Hulk stuff at the end of the episode so that we can give people a chance not to be spoiled.
Okay.
Just in case they haven't seen it yet. But I'm going to pivot to our favourite segment, because, what's that? Can you hear it? It sounds like it's red alert because we're entering the Star Trek corner.
Oh my. Oh, I wasn't prepared for this at all, Kyle. Oh, whatever could you possibly be speaking about in the Star Trek area? Oh, I'm so excited. Hairs are standing up on their ends.
Well, Well, we got a few Star Trek trailers. It was Comic-Con or one of the conventions.
New York
recently.
Comic-Con, yeah.
Yeah. So we got a trailer for Discovery Season 5, whatever looks like Discovery. I have nothing to say about that trailer.
Since we last spoke, I haven't made any progress on Discovery Season 4, so yeah, I watched it and I have nothing to say about it.
There was a trailer for Prodigy Season 2 where the guy from... what's his... Oh, God.
Captain Jellicoe.
Okay. Yeah, Jellicoe. I was going to say Don't Tell Me, but then you told me.
Sorry. Captain Hardass.
He shows up and he looks kind of weird.
He looks nothing. He had people online that said it was Captain Jellicoe. I wouldn't have known.
It's bizarre, and I haven't watched Prodigy, so not much to say about that either.
Yep, well, it looks promising, but again, I still haven't watched it.
Picard Season 3. That's the one we need to talk about.
Here we go. We can finish on a high note with other things, but oh god.
So yeah, a full trailer came out for Picard Season 3. Where to begin?
I
Nathan?
loved it.
That's literally in my notes. It says, Nathan likes the Picard trailer, ?
Remember the episode of Star Trek Voyager where they think they found a wormhole home and it's just like a Venus flytrap or something, and it's actually a big space gaseous anomaly that takes in ships and harvests it for its own biochemical nutrients, but it'll put up like hallucinations to the crews of these ships to make them think that it's their desires right in front of them. This wormhole takes them right back to Earth. That's me watching that trailer, right? I know I'm being tricked. I like how I don't like Picard Season 1, but I love the final scene between Picard and Data, even if it's not earned and even if the dialogue is fucking wild, speaking about butterflies aren't being really butterflies. Thing with Star Trek has it's a very powerful for Nathan. Very, very powerful. Thing works on me. And it doesn't work on me to the level where I'll say this was fantastic, but it'll work on me enough to make me look forward to see the thing, Now, again, the reality could be that I see the thing I know and they do it horribly wrong and I hate it, but we're not there yet. And
here's what I just don't get, because I get what you're saying, it's the thing but it's the thing in a context that looks bad, where, and I can't, we didn't say this on the podcast, but we've been talking about Picard Season 3 on and off in our personal time, because of course we have.
Of course.
And I had speculated that the plot of the DLC, the plot of the season...
It's Paramount Plus DLC, baby!
The plot of the season is going to be that Beverly Crusher has been wrongly accused of bombing a building and killing lots of people.
You did say that.
And it kind of seems like that's the plot of the trailer. There's some lady who's chasing them because reasons...
I don't think that matches up at all with what you'd theorised.
Oh, see, that's what I got of the trailer, but maybe I'm just looking for what I want to see. I don't know. But regardless, the whole trailer is dark and dingy and grimy, just like the past few seasons of Picard have been. All the lights are turned off.
Yeah, they're just using that set lighting.
They have totally batshit insane pills from Star Trek because they just run roulette through all the episodes of TNG and just pick an episodes and then put that thing in the show.
Right, honestly, we're beating around the bush for that. I am blown away that they decided that for the final season of Star Trek Picard, possibly the last time we ever see the crew of the Next Generation, they brought back the evil hologram of James Moriarty from Data's holodeck program of Sherlock Holmes.
I feel like we have to explain this to people who've never watched Star Trek before.
There are 2 episodes, and they're not 2-parters, they're 2 unrelated episodes of the Next Generation, with the holodeck, which is a thing in Star Trek where you go in and all your wildest dreams come true, and it's like an entertainment thing. It's like the cinema of the future where you play the part in the movie yourself as opposed to just watching it on the screen. And it's a bit of role play, and it's good fun. People enjoy it.
Yeah, and Data and Geordi often like to play Sherlock Holmes and Watson in the holodeck.
Data is Sherlock Holmes. But Geordi finds it very boring because Data is smarter than any Sherlock Holmes villain could be. So he says to the programme, instead of giving his old Arthur Conan Doyle book stories, make a Sherlock Holmes villain capable of defeating Data. Not Sherlock Holmes, but Data. And that character of James Moriarty, with the programming of that knowledge in his head, basically takes over the ship and stops being a holodeck programming. He's still a hologram, but he's not part of the story. He's now a sentient hologram that wants to defeat Data. And they talk him down, they put him in a box to forget about him. And it's a good, fine enough episode. And they bring that character back later in another episode. And I can't actually really remember the plot of that second episode as much, but it's...
He kind of wants to get out of the ship, and then he pretends that he can leave the holodeck, but actually the entire episode takes place in the holodeck version of the Enterprise. It's a fun little twist.
Yes, I remember that now. And yes, it's a perfectly fine episode. I enjoy it. And they say, okay, don't worry, Jim, we'll get you out of the holodeck someday. We'll put you in this little box. We'll get you out. And the show never picks up on that thread ever again. But it's like forgettable. Like they could have caught up with it off screen. It wasn't really.
They end in a place where like Moriarty. I don't actually think they tell him they'll get him out one day. I think they trick him into thinking that he's gotten out, and actually he's just kind of exploring a fake version of the universe in this little program.
Oh, possibly.
I think that's where it ends.
But in Picard season 3, boys and girls, he's back. And he has a little flintlock pistol, and he's in full 19th century Victorian London attire, or 20th century, and he's not in 19th century, and he's fully raring and ready to go, and it's why. Kyle, why is James Moriarty back? Tell me.
Because they played roulette with all the episodes of TNG, and they landed on the Moriarty episode. And then they looked it up and they said, oh, this actor's still alive. Let's get him.
Insane. Crazy.
I agree.
As much as I think they mishandled Q, I understand why they brought him back. And
of course, bringing back Q is obvious. Q is like the rival of Picard.
Bringing back James Moriarty from the holodeck. Why? Is he going to be...
His ultimate foe, Nathan.
His ultimate foe. It's Data's ultimate foe. And Data's dead.
Or is he?
They bring him back to help them fight Lore.
Actually, that makes perfect sense because he could defeat Data. And Lore is a copy of Data.
The only person capable of defeating Data might also be capable of defeating Lore, so they bring him back.
Lore is in this trailer also, by the way.
Yes,
Lore,
so we should know.
If we will explain Lore as well, Lore is Data's brother, who was built before built before Data, and he's evil. That's Lore. Lore is evil.
He had an emotion chip as well.
Yeah, sure.
He worked with the Borg for a while.
He's old in this trailer now for some reason, even though he's a robot.
Yeah, he is old. He's yellow eyes though.
Because Brendan Fraser. For God's sake, I'm just doing terrible with the names today.
Brent Spiner.
Brent Spiner doesn't want to put on all the prosthetics anymore.
My guy, it's part of it. If Michael Dorn can do it, you certainly can.
Per Worf. I wish Worf was in a better show.
Yeah, they'll give him a spin-off. He'll be the runaway success. And
I know all of the actors have been like, maybe if you like it, we'll all get our own spin-offs.
No, so right, so this is related, but not really speaking about Picard, just speaking about the actors. They want to make another movie. Marina Sirtis has tweeted about it. Jonathan Frakes has said it on stage and on Twitter because they put out a trailer. It was like their final voyage, and Jonathan Frakes is winking, going, maybe not our final one. And Marina Sirtis is like, the fans can make this happen. If you want more of our stuff, we're all willing to do it, but the fans need to support it. And like, I think they've probably all gone a bit off script because it does seem like they're trying to convince the studio to do something they haven't been pre-briefed on.
I mean, actor, I'm sure you've made this joke before, but actor wants to appear in film. Shocking news.
Yeah, I make that joke quite a lot when people talk about, like, insert person here would be open to return. Of course they fucking will be. Like, they're working actors, you know? But I do find that if they're working actors in their prime of their career, you don't want to piss off the studio because, like, they might not hire you again because you're difficult to work with. But these people, like the other people of Star Trek, other shows that haven't done shit like this, because they're like when they were making the Strange New World show, they hadn't announced it yet. They don't mind pimping out the fact that they're maybe thinking about making it, because I think the studio kind of know they want to. But the impression I'm getting for this proposed new TNG project, it might be a film, is that the studio might not even really want to do it, but the cast of this show are going off script to try and like heavy hand the studio into making it. And
well, I mean, they're saying like, hey, Star Trek is back in the popular spotlight. Maybe we can get back in the popular spotlight.
I think it's because they know they can make a lot of money from it. The studio might lose money on it, but the actors are going to have a big payday, you know?
They're milking this return for all it's worth.
Yeah,
they're making that money.
Exactly, they are. Because if you put Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis in insert working actor TV show, it's not going to be massive. They are happy to have accepted their typecasting, their Star Trek personas forever. And it is
sure, they're not John Delancey, who hates Star Trek and hates Star Trek fans.
Yeah. They know that this is what they're going to die with. And unlike Patrick Stewart, they know they don't have a lot of work elsewhere, apart from LeVar Burton, of course. So they're like, TNG's back in the spotlight, we're getting a new season of this TV show, let's milk it, let's see if we can get something else after it. And, I mean, honestly, I would watch it, of course I will.
Of course you would.
Of course I would. But
I cannot see a world where there's a TNG movie released in theatres.
I can't see it either, but it doesn't make me not want to do it.
Like, can you really imagine, like, the no offense to them, but the old age TNG cast going up against the next Marvel film? There's no way. They'll get destroyed.
I know, that's why you always want your cast to be young and hunky, right? I get it. I understand that you want young actors. That's why they want to cast a young Bond. You always cast your franchise young unless you need a supporting character that's older. Or if it's a long-standing franchise that never left the spotlight, you can keep them and let them age up because everyone's still on that drug. But people detoxed from the TNG crew. You know, more people alive right now probably recognise Patrick Stewart as the guy from the X-Men than they do as Captain Picard.
Oh, easily.
And I understand that it would probably be a bad move for the studio to make it, but it's not my money. And I'm fine to see it. I would like to see it. I want their undiscovered country, Kyle. That's what I want. I want to see the entire crew, whilst they're all still alive, on the bridge of an Enterprise. It's not going to be the E, because we know the E is... They've talked about how in Picard Season 3 we're going to hear about the demise of it. We see the Enterprise F in Picard Season 3. It's in the trailer. Odyssey class from Star Trek Online. Gorgeous ship. I want to see them on the bridge of the Enterprise with a wee captain's log as they go second star at the right and straight until morning. That's what I want.
You're not going to get... If they do a movie, you know what's going to happen. They're all going to die dramatically at the end, because that's how Star Trek does its things now.
No, we need a happy ending, Kyle. We need everyone on the bridge of the ship sailing off into the sun.
Did you forget in Season 1 when Riker and Troy showed up with their long-dead son who died because they couldn't make the cure because androids were outlawed and they needed an android brain to make the cure? Did you forget about that? They don't believe in happy endings.
I forgot all about that. I remember they're living with like a pizza oven and he burns a tomato and they have a log cabin and I don't remember why they're there.
That's why. That's why. It's because they're mad at the Federation because the Federation let their son die.
But he shows up as the captain of the Shang.
Yeah, because the show's badly written, and it should have been, if they wanted a thematically cohesive show, it should have been Clancy, but they were like, nah, Riker's more popular, so we'll use him instead. Anyway, I hate this. I hated this trailer, just in case that wasn't clear yet. I think it looks awful. I don't want to watch the show, but I have to, because I made an hour-long video about Season 2, and it's one of my most popular videos, so
I just want a happy. I want to be happy, Kyle. And you know that I'm not going to get it. And you're telling me that. But I just need to take a run at it anyway. I love my Star Trek when it's good. Which could bring us on to our next topic, Strange New Worlds, if you've watched it.
I've not watched it.
Oh, we're stuck in Picard. Shit.
I've been so busy. My brain is all Batman right now, which is great because I also still haven't watched the Batman movie, even though I can now. It's on Crave. I can watch it anytime I want. I just haven't yet. just little side tangent on Batman. So yeah, I'm working on a video series about Batman Arkham series right now, and I also just because I felt like it was time, I finally bought a next generation Xbox console. I bought a Series S.
Welcome to the next generation.
But you know what sucks? The next game I need to talk about is Batman Arkham Origins.
Yeah.
And Batman Arkham Origins is not available digitally. Those motherfuckers.
That is so funny.
So, to record and film the next video, I have to turn on my Xbox One again. God damn it.
It's quite funny. Right. We have one more topic.
Okay.
Madam Web. What do we think of Madam Web, Kyle? Because I have a few thoughts.
I think Sony is they're so charming. They're really trying, you know, and you have to applaud them for trying.
They really, really don't want to have to give back the Spider-Man rights to Marvel, do they?
What I find crazy about this is, though, there's loads of Spider-Man characters that you could do stuff with. Like, when they have the Spider-Man rights, I assume they have rights to all of the Well, of course they have rights to all the Spider-Verse stuff. They made into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, they have rights to every single Spider-Man thing, yeah.
But instead of making, like, a Miles Morales movie or a Spider-Gwen movie, they're just choosing a bunch of random shit to make movies on instead.
The thing they've wanted to do for 20 years and failed is a Sinister Six story. That's what they want to do. They want their Sinister Six. That's the ending of Morbius. That's the whole point.
They've been wanting that since Amazing Spider-Man 2.
They've been wanting it since Spider-Man 3.
Yeah. I mean, they basically did it in No Way Home, so...
Yeah, no, they done it and they kind of done it, but they want a film. They want the Sinister Six movie, and now they've got Morbius on board. They've got apparently now they've got Vulture on board. Sorry, Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton got dragged in against his will. He didn't know what he was doing. They've got Venom, presumably, though he has left his own. Yep, Kraven the Hunter. And personally, I think Kraven the Hunter would have been good as a Venom villain, as like a hunter of Venom. But now he's just getting his own movie.
It would have made sense if any of these villains were villains in a movie.
Yeah, but now in the Madam Web film, apparently what I've heard is someone out there is trying to stop Peter Parker from ever being born by killing his parents. And okay. Madam Web understands that the timeline is only protected with Spider-Man still being alive.
You know more about this than I do.
So she's putting together a crack team of people, and it's a period piece, I think it's set in the 70s, to go back and save the Parkers from whoever's trying to kill them. And it can't be Spider-Man for whatever reason. Though there is a guy that looks a bit like Aaron Taylor Johnson in the set photos that isn't Aaron Taylor Johnson in a spider-esque suit. That may be a Spider-Man of some description of the likes we do not yet know. And yeah, crack team goes back in time to save the Parker parents to allow Spider-Man to be born. And Madam Web is like the Amanda Waller that's recruiting everyone and holding it together. And I don't think it's a Suicide Squad thing, but like it is like a team. It's a crack team of spider people.
I know very little about Madam Web. I only know like the rough thing that she is some sort of Spider-Man-esque character who kind of works on like sort of a timeline multiversal kind of level.
She's the one who remains Kang the Conqueror from Loki.
Yeah, she's that sort of character. Generally when there's a Spider-Verse situation, she's the one who brings people together.
Exactly. And she's an old lady. But not now.
Normally she's an old lady with a blindfold and one weird sort of like skirt that hangs like a tail.
Like a tadpole. Really
yeah. Like a tadpole, yes. And they are cowards for not using that design, goddammit.
Well, Dakota Johnson's a young lady that's got to run around. It's not like a sack race.
But wouldn't it be funnier if they had like Dame Judi Dench in that role instead?
That would have been amazing.
And she had to run around like an action lady.
That would have been so good if they got Dame Judi Dench to be like M for the Spider Universe. She just sat in a chair and swore at people and told them to take the bloody shot.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I said that as a joke, but I love that.
She just sits in her spider chair and tells people to do the job. She could be like Dame Judi Dench. Could be like the Nick Fury of the Spider-Verse.
So Dakota Johnson of 50 Shades of Grey fame, of course.
Oh, of course. I've never seen them.
I've never seen them either. I'm sure there's some people who are like, oh, she's a terrible actress or whatever, but she seems fine from what I've seen. That's not what I'm worried about. I just think, does anybody in the world care about this movie?
I didn't until I found out that there was like timeline shenanigans at play with stopping the birth of Spider-Man. There could be something, there could be money in this. But even though there could be money in this, it's the same way with like Morbius, there could be money in this. Why do it? Just make a Spider-Verse. Get Spider-Man.
Sure, get Emma Stone back and make a Spider-Gwen movie. That seems easy enough. I'm sure she'd do it.
I agree.
Yeah, the Sony Spider-Man situation is always fun because I have to assume that your average people do not understand what the hell's going on over there, right? They just assume that Morbius is part of the MCU, even though it's not.
I think they just assume it's its own thing, actually. I think that when they see any Sony Marvel thing, they don't even quite click it as being Marvel. Those people that sit in theatres, you know when you go to the cinema and people watch the trailers and you see people that don't go very often lean into each other and go, that looks good, should we go see that next? Like, they don't have like a context for its existence. They just see a movie trailer. And I think that's what a lot of people think that the Marvel Sony movies are. They don't really care for them in like a wider build-up story. It's just, we'll go see that. And I like the first Venom, we'll see Venom 2. But that's it.
I just wonder how much longer they can keep this train going.
For as long as it makes a profit.
Did Morbius make a profit?
I actually don't know. I'm presuming it did. It must have.
I'm not convinced about that. I know when they re-released it to cinemas, it for sure didn't make a profit.
Oh no, I know. It bombed horribly. I respect the re-release strat. I think it's quite funny. But it's a good market rate. I bet studios were watching that to see if there was any money in re-releasing meme content.
And the answer was a definitive no.
The answer was a definitive no.
I'm not sure Morbius made a profit. I'm not sure Venom 2 made a profit either.
Oh, I think Venom 2 must have made a profit. I mean, I think all three of those movies are sort of just in the same league as each other, which is broadly fine. But I think at the very least the two Venom movies made a profit. Everyone loves Tom Hardy.
Sure, I suppose. Although I will say, as always, my parents who are my gauge for average viewers who are not me.
Yep.
Because I'm a hyper nerd who understands all this stuff. They got about 10 minutes into Venom 2 and gave up because they thought it was so boring.
Yeah, I get it. That's kind of my view on all three of the Sonyverse movies. I watched them all, but I kind of just think they're all fine. I can sit through them, of course, but like I don't think they're amazing.
Do you think Kevin Feige just sits down sometimes and is like, man, I fucking hate Sony. Just give me the rights to Spider-Man.
I bet he does. I mean, as we know, he tried to help them with the Amazing Spider-Man 2 with Andrew Garfield in 2012, because at that time, maybe he was going to take Andrew Garfield into the MCU. He did try and help them. He's been trying to help them for a long time, and they keep sometimes listening to him and other times not. And I bet the biggest coup he's ever done is getting Spider-Man out of the MCU. But having to compete with the shared cinematic universe that Sony's also building and the brand confusion, I bet it gives him a headache. Because Spider-Man's the only outlier he has now. He has a distribution thing with Universal for Hulk, but if he doesn't make a movie, there's no issue. That's up to him. That's his decision. But Sony, they can do what they like. He has no control. He has goodwill to try and convince them, but there's no legal recourse. He can do what he likes. Tom Holland's contract's not with Marvel Studios. I bet there'll be some stipulation that allows them not to use Tom Holland unless it's confirmed that he's out of the MCU. But, like everything else, free game.
Alright, Nathan. Let's talk about She-Hulk.
Okay, let's talk about She-Hulk.
Where to start? We've not talked about the last few Marvel shows. We were very, very brief in our last episode talking about them, kind of because we were in a rush. You were about to leave, so we sped up towards the end. But also, like, I don't know. I don't have much to talk about with the previous shows like Miss Marvel and Moon Knight, just because they kind of came and went and they didn't leave much of an impression on me in the end of the day.
Okay, yeah.
Like, and that's not to say I didn't like them. I liked both of those shows. I think both of them started strong and got weaker as the show went on, which is kind of a trend with these Marvel shows. They always have a big flashy first episode, and then by the end of the show, they've just kind of muddled things, and it's like, it was okay, I guess.
Yeah. There's wobbling quality.
I loved She-Hulk. I think it's easily my favourite Disney Plus Marvel show so far. I loved it.
I think you are high on crack.
Oh, good. It's going to be one of those conversations.
I think you've Kevin Feige's put something in your drink.
So you didn't like it, is what you're saying?
No, I'm being my tongue is somewhat in my cheek when I say that. I enjoyed She-Hulk. It's somewhat substantially. I wouldn't say it's my favourite. I thought it was muddled. I can see the duct tape holding the show up. I can see all the re-edits in it. A lot of the Hulk stuff all got moved around. I know that the last episode was reshot quite a bit. All the fourth wall break stuff. Apparently this really was supposed to have see when I said earlier this was supposed to tie into Cap 4?
Mm-hmm.
From what I've heard, this was supposed to be more paint by numbers, set up what's coming next show. And I don't mean that to say that that's the only purpose it serves, because it still introduces She-Hulk and does everything else that it did, and still have Abomination. But it was really the intelligentsia shit was so boring to me. But apparently the Get Her Blood was supposed to be a bigger part of the show. There might have been a cameo from the leader. I haven't heard that, but that's just me theorising. And it was supposed to be kind of like a dramatic, instead of like Wong getting Abomination out of jail right at the end of a post-credit scene, it might have been a setup for Cap 4, basically. And they just didn't.
See, that's interesting that you say that, because what you're describing right now, to me, would have made the show way worse.
I think that I admire the hell out of how they ended the show. And I think the fourth wall break stuff, there should have been more in it throughout the show.
I've heard that there was supposed to be, and they were told to tone it down.
But I think the biggest mistake that they made was not having Kevin Feige show up.
You think that was the biggest mistake?
Not the biggest mistake. Sorry, I'm kind of mixing I should be more clear. I'm specifically talking about the last episode and all the fourth wall breaks. I think that if it wants to do the fourth wall break thing, and it's supposed to be directly addressing the audience, actually come into this world. Like, you're breaking through my Disney Plus UI, you're climbing into the assembled series that comes out after each show, you're going to the writer's room. Apparently those two writers, by the way, that she speaks to are just actors. They're not actually the writers, but the real writers were in the room, just didn't have any speaking lines.
Yes, I kind of gathered that, just based on watching it.
And like, if you're really into this world, go get Kevin Feige. It doesn't need to be a great actor. We enjoy seeing them though. Disney execs.
I've heard that he refused to do it.
Disney execs have a long history of showing up in front of the camera for stuff. A bit like Howard Stark. I think I would have loved it a lot more had they committed to it.
And it probably would have been cheaper.
It would have been so much cheaper. I liked all the you're difficult to animate. Can we tone you down a little bit? Like do it off screen, transition off screen, and everything like that. Like
here's the thing.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny. I think it would have been funnier if it wasn't tarnished by all the the real world stuff about how Disney animators are treated like shit and they have to work terrible hours and all of this stuff that has come out recently.
That's fair.
I think that really tarnished that joke for me, because it's like, wow, you're treating these people like shit and now you're making fun of them for the effort.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, that's true. I thought every single thing with Daredevil on screen and just the mention of Matt Murdock on the show was hilarious. Smash or pass with Daredevil, she likes sleeping with Matt Murdock, that joke, just it wasn't even subtle. Hilarious. Sitting on the floor talking about how everyone's got daddy issues. When's X-Men coming? Smile and wink at the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Loved it all. I thought it was very, very well done. It's just, I have arc things. Like, I feel like the rest of the show did not matter to the end of it. If you can rewrite the ending, if you can do that, that means any setup a show builds does not matter, because I know that at any point she can climb out of the camera and change it. I get it works as a gag, but not for the entire second half of an episode. It went on too long to feel like it just was a big F you to... Why did I watch... I didn't need to watch the entire show. I could have watched the last episode and I would have got the whole thing.
Okay.
What was all my hours of watching Todd for if he literally didn't matter?
I can try and reframe this for you.
Okay.
If you want.
Yeah, please.
I'll try my best. So, first off, I'll say probably my favourite part of She-Hulk is that it's a TV show and not a stretched out movie, which is what so many of the other Marvel shows have felt like. They feel like movies that have been stretched out to be a 6-episode show.
I would agree.
And I like that She-Hulk actually had episodes where different things happened and different plots were set up and then resolved. I don't think they were always paced super well, but at least it was an actual show. And if there's, like an actual TV show, if there's an episode that you didn't really gel with, you can wait till next week where it might be better, you know?
Yes.
So there's that. That's for one. Second, I think that the breaking out of the screen and like changing the ending and all that, I view this as a, like, I know people have been saying, like, oh, that's too OP, like, what's she gonna do at the end of the next Avengers film? Jump out and kill Kang with the power of fourth wall breaks? Like, I don't think that's the correct takeaway from this.
I would agree with that. I don't think that's what she's gonna do. Oh, I had it so solidified in my mind right until I opened my mouth and it's immediately drained out of my head. You know when that happens? You have a fully formed thought and it just, the second your mouth opens, it just disappears. With that as a gag, it's fine as a gag. And again, it had my attention. I thought it was bold and different and, like, it was interesting. But it really did feel like it just sort of came out of nowhere. I know the fourth wall breaks had been on the show, but there just wasn't enough of it in the show to feel that she could literally do that.
Okay. Let me get back to my point here. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and saying this now, I might end up making a video about this as well. So, where my thoughts will be better structured.
Yes.
But Jen's main arc across the show is kind of her whole idea. That her arc across the show is learning to live with both of her personas, right? Both Jen and She-Hulk, and
how desperate she is for love.
That's part of it too, but that's the balancing act of the show, because at the start of the show she doesn't want anything to do with being She-Hulk, and then she's forced into doing it. And over the course of the show, she does kind of learn more so, especially in the Daredevil episodes, to be more okay with the She-Hulkness. Actually, I'd say more so than the Daredevil episode, the episode before that, with where she goes to the weird old culty retreat thing.
Yes.
Right, and that's that. The other element of the show, the intelligentsia stuff, which it's interesting to see you find so boring, because I thought that stuff was all great, because they just fucking nailed what the reaction to this show would be. Like, everything those dudes say is just so perfect to the shit I've been reading online about this show.
I felt that a lot of it... Oh, this is the thought I had solidified in my head, not my mouth, and I forgot. Do you remember when, like, in The Force Awakens, they sort of call out the fact that Starkiller Base is just another Death Star, and you think, like, oh, calling that out nullifies you from the criticism?
Mm-hmm.
I think this show, and again, I'll come back to the fourth wall break, partly the intelligentsia thing as well, but it's like, oh, it doesn't care any shit writing we do in this show. We can just have the character address the shitty writing, and we're all laughing, guys. Look at us, we're all laughing. It's fine. And I really dislike it in pretty much anything where a writer feels the need to mock criticism openly on the show. You can mock criticism by not really addressing it, but doing it through allegory. That's kind of clever. But when they basically personified people online, like there's people out there that think that, like, yes, this show done a very ham-handed, dumb man way of criticising things, and there is a lot of that online. But the tone I got from it was very much we don't care about your criticisms, or we don't we acknowledge these things are here, but we don't care, you know, which is kind of what I think. Like, I wish the Star Trek writers, I think they wish they could do, but they just don't have a way to do it yet. Like, it was clear Todd was the Hulk King. That was not a surprise.
Yes.
I wasn't surprised by that at all. And
well, here's the thing. I don't think that was... I know those people are like, oh, it's the leader. But with the twists in this show, like her, when she had that, like, whirlwind romance with Josh, it was not a surprise that he turned out to be evil, and I don't think it was supposed to be a surprise. I don't think it was supposed to be a shocking reveal. And the same for Todd being the secret villain. I don't think you're supposed to go, dun, dun, dun. And that's why I like this show, for one of those, because...
Well, see, I was surprised when Josh was a secret asshole.
No, I was watching, behind the scenes, I watch all of these shows with my parents on the couch, so... And the first thing we said, like, after the wedding episode, the first thing we all said is like, so that guy's evil, right?
I didn't. I like the happy stories, and I was like, well, she's been on a bunch of disastrous dates, and she met a nice guy who doesn't care about the She-Hulk side of her. I was like, right, okay, we're getting into some more traditional storytelling here. She meets a nice guy, she's been on a bunch of disastrous dates. How does she balance the personal life and career life, you know? Because they had a big thing about how she's built up her career. She's a career-focused woman, but then the whole show spends most of the time talking about her personal life and how she just can't get a date. I was like, this is a very... But if that's the route they're going to go down, they've decided to do that route. I was like, right, okay, we'll do the love thing then. And then I didn't see the love story with Matt Murdock coming, though I think it's a great pairing. I think it's a wonderful pairing.
I think their chemistry worked surprisingly well.
Charlie Cox is a good romantic actor. He's done some rom-coms and stuff before. Like
yeah, sure.
He's talented, man. He's
a talented man.
I buy him in Love Story.
He's a talented and handsome man, so, you know. But no, like, so, I think I brought this up when we were talking about the Book of Boba Fett, actually, that I feel so many of these shows are written in a way where they have twists just for the sake of making the internet speculate and talk about things.
Ralph Boner, anyone?
Ralph Boner, Cad Bane showing up was the big one that I'm thinking about, where it's just things that they just throw in there to make people, like, excited, and it's like, that's a thing you know, and that's a thing the internet will like us for. And I hate that because it makes the stories worse. A good twist should be something that you can see coming, because that means it was well written and well established.
I think both things can be good, because I'll tell you right now, I loved Cad Bane showing up. It felt like a vindication of my time spent watching the animated product, to know that those stories are still being told and they're not over. And whether we like it or not, live action is more mainstream, and it's nice to see the thing that I love being brought to a wider audience. But I will, like, anything that's a good plan, like a good film, a good detective mystery, plants the seeds for the twist.
I'm fine. We're moving back onto Book of Boba Fett again, but I am fine with Cad Bane showing up. But if he's going to show up, do it properly and actually, like, establish that character before the second last episodes. Because at that point, you're just doing it to make sure people are still watching the show.
For watching Book of Boba Fett in a vacuum, yes, I would agree. But I'm not watching it in a vacuum. I don't care about the casual fans. I'm looking at the big picture. I'm a big picture kind of guy.
Anyway, I'm all over the place with Scatterford. This is why I need to write videos.
It's partly my fault. It's partly my fault. I should shut up and let you talk.
Okay. While I was watching the show, I found the trying to steal Jen's blood plot line to be annoying, because it's not what I wanted the show to do, because it was doing the thing that all of these shows have been doing as well, which is that they spend so much time setting up the next thing that it takes away from what they're actually supposed to be doing. That was a massive problem with Miss Marvel, is like half of that show is setting up other stuff that will happen later. And that's what the She-Hulk blood stuff felt like. And every time they did that, I was like, oh, we're doing, like, generic Marvel stuff. And then, in the last episode, where it's all the chaos is breaking out, and it's like, and Jen's like, this cannot be where the series was going. And Todd takes the She-Hulk, her blood, and somehow becomes a Hulk, and all this. And it's like, yes, actually, this is where the show was going.
I didn't like Todd getting the Hulk thing. I honestly think that came out of nowhere. I think that
it was stupid.
I think that came out of nowhere. Because this is what I'll say, right? I think the show was fairly on track for something. And then the last episode is where it went crazy, but it went crazy deliberately because obviously they wrote the episode is one episode, and they're like, right, let's make this episode go crazy so that when Jen goes out into the Disney Plus menu, the audience also feel justified in agreeing to it. But I think had that episode just started with her doing that, the show up to that point I don't think warranted it, and the show had to manufacture the crazy, and I think it kind of really ramped up really, really quickly based on like from where the last episode ended to the ramp up of crazy this went, like it was manufactured to make the justification for Disney Plus. It wasn't, Disney Plus is a good, it is a good get out, but it was like the Disney Plus stock came first, and then they manufactured the reasons to why she was going to do that next.
I don't disagree entirely, but I also don't think it's terrible. There was a leaked screenshot, which at this point I'm highly suspicious that maybe it was a deliberately leaked screenshot where it's a shot of Hulk punching Abomination. And it was like leaked. I saw it on Instagram like a week before the episode came out.
I just didn't see it.
So that was out there, and it was like everyone's like, "Oh, there's going to be a rematch in the next episode," and I was like, "Oh God, that's gonna be bad because it doesn't make any sense with the way the show's been set up, and it doesn't make any sense." And when Bruce drops down and just starts fighting Abomination for a complete misunderstanding, it's like, "Oh, this is so dumb," but I think that was smart because a problem with a lot of the Marvel shows is that the end is a clustered mess where a whole bunch of nonsense happens. And it's very clearly, like, badly edited and badly paced. And to me, that whole part felt like a deliberate parody of all the previous Disney Plus shows, which doesn't speak great to the previous Disney Plus shows that they're already making fun of themselves.
See, I don't think that's what the other ones were like at all. I know literally at the end of Moon Knight, a giant skeleton bird fights a giant crocodile. I get that, right? But within the realms of that show, it wasn't unwarranted or out of nowhere. I think the Hulk literally dropping in out of space with no pre-warning at the early stages of the episode to fight Abomination, who's
it's more like Kingpin and Hawkeye just showing up in the last episodes, right? Where that character should have been built up from episode 1.
Yeah. I think that speaks to they're banking on people associating it with the Netflix show, even if it's a different, even if it's a different continuity. I think TV writing has a lot become how much do we need to do based on how much audiences already know. Do we need to kill off Bruce Wayne's parents again? No, we're banking off the association that people already have with the character because we've done it so many times before. It's a little bit of brand awareness, I think. And yes, within a vacuum, technically, yes, you should show Bruce Wayne's parents dying every single time because a new continuity and you need people to go in blind. But like,
it's not really about that. It's not like you don't need to show Kingpin's backstory in Hawkeye, but you do need to establish him as a threat earlier in the show so that you care about it when he gets beaten up by Kate Bishop.
Mysterious big man. I think they built up a mysterious big man of sorts before Kingpin actually showed up.
The bigger thing is, it's more so, fan expectations, because this has also been a thing with all of these Marvel shows, is Doctor Strange is going to show up at the end of WandaVision, and Steve Rogers is going to show up in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Thor is going to show up in Loki, and there's always been these things that people are like, this should happen in this show, this would make the show better if this character showed up. And then this at the end felt like, well, this is what happens when we do that, it's bad.
Well, I think you can still do it and do it well. As much as I think Doctor Strange not showing up at the end of WandaVision firmly set my Disney Plus expectations because I thought it might have happened. I don't think him showing up makes it bad. I think you can still do it and do it well. We could talk about Luke Skywalker and Mandalorian. You don't like it. I don't think there's I don't mind it. I enjoy it. I think Hulk...
Is this where it's all going back to again? Does it always go back to the end of Mandalorian?
Yeah, it does. It always does. Oh God, it was a watershed moment for I think a lot of writers. But I think Hulk showing up in the She-Hulk was bad, but that's because they'd done it poorly. But also, I think they deliberately done it poorly because they had the ending, and then they had to write their way to the ending. They weren't writing in a way that kind of made sense. They had check marks in the sand, and it was up to them how they made those milestones. And her breaking the fourth wall in the last episode was one of those check marks, and then they had to go back and justify how they got there. And I think they got there really lazily.
Wait, the thing I think was important about the fourth wall breaking thing is not the jokes. It's the part where Jen is saying how she thinks her story should end, and she talks about how the show is about her like learning to come to terms with her two identities and all this.
Yes. That's
the important part of the scene, and that part that works, and with that being the case, it's just a big, really on the nose metaphor for her taking control of her life. And that's what I got out of it. It was funny, but that's the true part of it, and that's why I don't think it's going to be like a recurring thing that she can have the power to do this.
I think I agree with you in a vacuum.
I think it was rushed. I'll agree with you that it was rushed to get there. And what I really think they should have done is after the part where she changes the ending and says, "Okay, Bruce doesn't show up," and Blonsky does his thing, and we're not doing the blood plot line. I think they should have redone that scene.
Yeah,
where the actual thing happens, and I think that's where it failed for me slightly. Is I think they should have actually gone back and said, "Okay, reset. We're doing this scene again, but we're doing it properly."
I would have also enjoyed that. I said to you in private, though I haven't said it on the show. The inhibitor bracelet thing she had on that was like a monitor to make sure she didn't break parole and turn back into She-Hulk. When she went into Kevin Feige's robot office and she changed the ending of the show, everything else up to that point apparently still happened, including her getting arrested. That didn't get arrested. They just broadly... Because if you actually look at the linear continuity of events, all she did was sort of pause the meeting, go out of the show, go back into the show, and the police are there, but everything right up until the point in which she paused it, I think, technically still happened, except Hulk wasn't there anymore, but everyone else was, because Bolonsky still got sent back to prison, so they have to, in continuity, agree that he did turn back into Abomination. Why is she not getting sent back to prison as well? Yes. I think it's crazy that she was going to get sent to prison anyway. All she did was wreck a TV and didn't hurt anyone. I don't think she was justified in going to prison at all. I think the show was really ham-handed at talking about poor men. And it's a conversation I really don't like having because it really tires me. It really makes me tired. But this show just couldn't help itself with talking about dumb men. And it got really tiring. I got really fed up. I was like, okay, okay, I get it. But when it came to the last episode with criticisms being really evil and sexist and ham-handed all in the one room, I was like, come on, this is just obtuse. So this is just silly. These people are clearly idiots, and we're giving them a lot of airtime.
See, I found that part kind of vindicating just because I make the mistake of reading through Twitter comments and Facebook comments, and I have to see all that shit. So
do I, but I just don't care about them, really. The people clearly do care about them. People put a lot of weight into them, and I just don't.
Well, that's great for you, but unfortunately, I would say at this point at least, the She-Hulk hatedom has been dominating at least the YouTube sphere.
See, that's weird. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I wouldn't tell you wrong. You've read the comments. I haven't. I've seen surprisingly little. I've seen the MCU. I've seen that a lot, right? But in relation to She-Hulk, I've actually seen very little social justice warrior criticism around it. I've just not seen it. I've seen people saying it's a bit of a meh show, which I think it's better than meh. I like it more than most, but not as much as you.
You're saying that you got fed up of the dumb men comments. Just imagine what that crowd thinks of it, okay?
They loved it, I'm sure.
Exactly. But so I'll agree that the finale could have been at least 5 minutes longer, where they could show that scene again.
I would have loved if they'd done this an episode earlier and they spent a full episode in a Stanley Parable situation where she was out walking the offices at Marvel and there was someone trying to direct her back into the show, and she just wasn't having any of it. She refused to return to the set, you know? Some otherworldly voice, because they did get a narrator and she was like, we're not there yet. But if they went full Stanley Parable and had like someone keep trying to open doors to send her back to the set, and she just wasn't listening until she gets to Kevin's office at the end and it's some Wizard of Oz robot, though I think it should have actually been Kevin Feige, I think that would have been much better.
I wonder why it wasn't Kevin Feige. Like, I did enjoy the Kevin robot joke. I did think it was kind of funny, and I love that the robot design has his little hat brim.
Oh, it was very cleverly done. I think probably my favourite episode, despite every bit of criticism I've given it, might indeed be the last one just because of how different it is. But I think, big picture, it was a bit out of nowhere.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think from the very first episode, she's showing like an awareness of being in a show. So I don't think it was that much of a leap. Obviously, it's more extreme jumping through the Disney Plus screen.
It's the extreme nature of it that jarred me.
I didn't think it came out of nowhere. I was on board.
I was happy to go along for the ride, but I couldn't believe what I was saying.
Anyway, yeah, I don't think I convinced you. Maybe I'll do better in a video, but that's my point. The breaking out and the breaking the fourth wall, it was all a metaphor for her character arc. There we go.
I think what you're saying, I couldn't tell you wrong. I can see all the little cable tie plugins for everything you're saying. And it's an interesting prism in which you view it. And it is interesting. And I think in a vacuum of this show, I think that's exactly what it might be. But MCU, big picture, that's why I don't care that Cad Bane showed up in Boba Fett, because big picture, outside of just the Boba Fett show itself, I just think there's implications there that the show sooner would rather not address, because it wants to pretend that it's in a vacuum when it's clearly not.
Well, that's kind of why I liked it as well, though, because while the MCU being all big and connected is great, and that's part of why I love the MCU, I always think that the best MCU stories are the ones where they fully focus on the character they're about. Like all the early MCU films, they have like their small little tie-ins, like Coulson says, oh, I have a thing to do, and goes to see Thor's hammer in Iron Man 2, right?
Yeah.
But with a lot of Phase 4 especially, there's just been so much stuff where it's like, we'll get to this later, we'll get to this later, we'll get to this later, and it's so tiring. And I just want them to actually tell stories about the characters they're talking about inside this universe without feeling the need to bring in all this other stuff. Even though She-Hulk does have a load of like other stuff in it, like Wong shows up for a couple of episodes, and things like that. Daredevil, obviously. But they felt more naturally included just because of the format of the TV show. They're not...
Sorry, go.
No, that was it, really.
We haven't even spoke about Hulk's son.
There's not much to say, is there? It's played as a joke.
Young Avengers, here we come. I should say, you haven't watched Andor, have you?
No, I haven't.
See, this is what you're saying about She-Hulk is why I like Andor. There is no wider Star Wars big picture storytelling going on.
And that's why I'll probably love Andor. I've been so Batman.
So Batman. That's so Batman.
That's so Batman. I will watch Andor. As I say, we'll do a podcast about Andor, I promise.
I can't wait, because I have so much, whereas by the way, you know what I hate about that discussion that we've just had? I'm going to come off as the guy that didn't like She-Hulk and you did, because it's 50-50 split. Listener, for the avoidance of doubt, I enjoyed the She-Hulk show. I thought it was entertaining enough. I probably like it more than I like some of the other Disney Plus Marvel shows to date. I just had criticisms with it, where I think Kyle doesn't have many at all, and that's all I'm voicing. I liked the show. Don't let it run away with you that I hated it. I did not hate it.
Like, I'll voice a couple of criticisms for you, okay? I already said I think the ending was rushed. I think they should have... is it Bill and Ted? I keep thinking of Bill and Ted.
The Excellent Adventure.
Yeah. Excellent Adventure, yeah. They should have had Jen go like and redo the scene. But I think the CGI is, as much as they joke about it, it's really rough in parts, especially some of the early scenes, and when she's in the office, it's like, that you can like see the seams of the green screen around her, basically.
Yeah. Megan Thee Stallion
was odd, although I think Hart's working with She-Hulk was funny just because it pissed off the internet, and I like it when the show pisses off the internet.
I thought it was quite funny. I thought it was quite good. Thank God she got that superhero fashion man to help her, because I hated not to sound like a sexist pig, but I thought that with the CGI look on top of the bad CGI suit, I just thought it looked horrific.
Oh, yeah, no, it was, yeah. And I know, they lampshade it a bit by saying that she could only afford terrible clothes, or terrible clothes are the only ones that fit her.
Yeah.
But, yeah, she looks better when she gets a proper tailor.
Tailors help. Tailors always help.
Other things I can criticise. I don't think the show did a good enough job at fleshing out the side characters. I think it maybe focused a little too much on
more Nikki
guest cameos.
More Nikki. She was great.
Yes. I liked Nikki. I think they could have done more with her. I think that Pug was barely established as a character at all, which is kind of a waste.
The only good male character in the show, apart from Matt Murdock.
And Wong.
And Wong, but Wong's his own thing. Wong has...
I love Wong. I loved Wong in this show because...
I also like Wong.
And that's the thing, I think this show's going to be a really fun rewatch, just because when there is slower parts of the episodes, you can just have it on in the background while you're doing other stuff and then zone in when the funny stuff happens.
I don't know why Wong constantly keeps releasing Neil Blonsky from containment.
Because they're friends.
Are they friends? I thought he was using him for a fighting arena at first, then he would drop him back off in jail. He's breaking him this time.
He said in the early episode that the first time Wong offered him asylum, and he said no.
Why is he...
That was mentioned.
And why is he doing it this time? Questions for the future.
I don't know. I loved Tim Roth in this show as well. I'm glad he can do things.
In the last episode, I thought it was Taika Waititi's Korg. I couldn't hear Tim Roth coming out of Abomination's mouth.
I think the voice is distracting when he's in Abomination form, because he's just doing Tim Roth Roth voice.
But he sounds a bit like Korg, I think. I think it needs to be more distinct.
Maybe. I think they should have added a voice modulator to the voice a bit or something at least.
I think they should have killed Korg.
Oh yes, I think I'm team kill Korg. They've got all we should start our own Reddit knockoff where we can just talk about ways to kill Korg. You just have to aim for the head. That's how you do it.
Do you want to make a Twitter account where every day we post the life status of Korg? Is he dead yet? No. Is he dead yet? No.
Can you just start doing that on Name Not Included Twitter?
No one would see it though, and everyone would vilify us. Oh my god. We'd be awful. People would hate me.